You humans are nothing more than fragile creatures, sneered High Commander Krellick, his red eyes gleaming with disdain. Your entire civilization is built on a planet that would be considered a luxury resort in this galaxy. The metallic, snake-like coils of his body shifted as he leaned forward, emphasizing his point. Around him, the command center buzzed with activity, displaying holograms of Earth and its pathetic human defenders. Xander Holt, the human envoy present, remained calm, his piercing blue eyes never wavering. He was a seasoned war veteran, his body scarred from battles across multiple star systems. Despite the aliens' insults, he stood tall, an unyielding force. You think you understand Earth, High Commander? Xander's voice was smooth, but there was an edge to it, a latent power. You see a planet that's mostly water and vegetation, but you don't understand what it takes to survive there. The room fell silent. Krellick's mocking grin faltered, but he quickly recovered. Survive? He snorted, gesturing toward the holographic displays. Your world barely qualifies as a Tier 3 combat zone. Hardly worthy of our attention. Xander's lips curled into a smirk. Is that what you believe? Then you're in for a rude awakening. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. Earth isn't just a planet. It's a crucible, a training ground for the most resilient and dangerous species the galaxy has ever seen. The commander's mandibles twitched in irritation. Prove it, human. Xander's eyes gleamed with a fierce light. You'll see soon enough, High Commander. You'll see what a Tier-8 Warzone HellWorld truly means. It didn't take long for the first assault to begin. The alien fleet, confident in their technological superiority, descended upon Earth's atmosphere with precision. Plasma cannons lit up the night sky, and massive warships hovered over major cities, their shadow casting darkness over humanity's last stand. On the ground, Xander watched as the first alien soldiers deployed, their grotesque forms moving with mechanical efficiency. Their armor gleamed under the burning sky, and their weapons hummed with an otherworldly power. But Xander didn't flinch. Instead, he activated his comms. All units, hold position. Wait for my signal. Are you sure about this, sir? Came the voice of Captain Rain, her tone laced with concern. Their tech is off the charts. We can't match their firepower. Xander smiled. We don't need to match it. We just need to show them what they're truly dealing with. The alien forces advanced, their plasma rifles cutting through the human defensive lines with ease. But as they moved deeper into the city, something changed. The air grew thicker, hotter. Suddenly, a crack echoed through the battlefield, followed by a rumble that shook the ground. Alien soldiers stopped, their eyes wide with disbelief as fissures appeared beneath their feet, molten lava spewing forth like geysers. What is this? Krellick demanded from his command ship, watching the chaos unfold. Why is the ground turning against us? Xander's laughter crackled over the comms. You underestimated us, Commander. You thought Earth was tame. But she has a few surprises in store for you. As the alien forces scrambled to regroup, they encountered their next challenge. Gigantic, electrically charged storms rolled in from the horizon, lightning bolts striking with pinpoint accuracy. Alien war machines, once impervious to damage, began to malfunction, their systems overloaded by the sheer power of the Earth's wrath. In the chaos, Xander moved like a ghost, slipping through enemy lines with practiced ease. His combat suit, a blend of Terran technology and scavenged alien tech, allowed him to remain undetected. He approached a cluster of alien soldiers, who were frantically trying to stabilize their equipment. With a flick of his wrist, he activated a pulse blade, the energy weapon humming softly in the air. Didn't expect a human to get this close, did you? Xander whispered into the ear of the nearest alien before driving the blade into its chest. The creature gasped, a look of shock and horror frozen on its face as it crumpled to the ground. Suddenly, an alien warrior, larger than the rest, lunged at Xander. He barely dodged, rolling to the side as the massive fist slammed into the ground, leaving a crater. Xander sprang to his feet, his movements fluid and precise. I guess they did send the big boys, he muttered, wiping blood from his lip. "Your arrogance will be your downfall," the alien snarled, its glowing eyes narrowing with hatred. It swung again, but this time, Xander was ready. He moved with a speed that defied logic, ducking under the blow and driving his blade deep into the creature's exposed neck. As the alien fell, gurgling and twitching, Xander looked up at the sky, his face illuminated by the fiery explosions above. "Welcome to Earth," he muttered. "And welcome to Hell." Xander moved through the battlefield with the grace of a predator, his every step calculated, every breath measured. The alien invaders had underestimated humanity's resilience, and now they were paying the price. All around him, the forces of Earth fought with a brutal efficiency that left the alien warriors scrambling for survival. He could hear their panicked transmissions, filled with confusion and disbelief. They hadn't expected Earth to be a war zone, much less one that fought back with every element. As Xander sliced through another alien soldier, his comm crackled to life again. "Sir, we've pushed them back from the outer perimeter. But their heavy artillery is still online." Xander wiped the sweat from his brow, his face set in a grim expression. "What about the reinforcements?" Captain Rain's voice came through, tense. "They're sending more down from orbit. But it's not just foot soldiers anymore. They've deployed something bigger. We're picking up signatures that match their war machines. If they reach the capital—" "They won't," Xander interrupted. "We'll take them out before they get that far." He looked up at the sky, the alien warships still looming ominously above, but he knew their arrogance would be their undoing. Earth wasn't just a battlefield. It was a living, breathing entity that had been forged in fire and ice, in chaos and storms. And humans? They were its most dangerous weapon. "Prepare the traps," Xander ordered, his voice low and commanding. "We'll hit them where it hurts." As he moved toward the next position, the landscape began to change. The once familiar terrain was now scarred and torn apart by the forces of nature, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and storms that raged uncontrollably. The alien invaders had no idea what they had awakened. Ahead, he could see the massive war machines approaching. Hulking beasts of metal, bristling with weapons, and towering over the battlefield like giants. But Xander wasn't intimidated. He had faced worse. Earth had taught him to fear nothing. The human forces, hidden in the ruins of the once great city, waited in silence. Their traps were set, crude but effective. As the machines drew closer, Xander gave the signal. In an instant, the ground beneath the alien machines exploded, sending debris flying in every direction. Massive pits opened up, swallowing some of the war machines whole, while others stumbled as their legs were blown apart by mines hidden beneath the surface. The aliens scrambled to regain control, but it was too late. Human soldiers, armed with improvised weapons and scavenged alien tech, poured from the shadows, attacking the remaining machines with relentless precision. Xander led the charge, his pulse blade glowing with deadly intent. He moved like a blur, dodging incoming fire and slicing through the alien armor with practiced ease. The war machines were powerful, but they weren't prepared for this kind of resistance. One of the machines turned its massive cannons toward him, but before it could fire, Xander sprinted forward, leaping onto its chassis. He scaled the machine with swift, agile movements, avoiding its defensive systems. Reaching the top, he found the weak point he'd been looking for, a small panel just beneath the main cannon. With a swift motion, he tore the panel off and jammed a high-powered explosive inside. Then, with a graceful leap, he jumped off the machine, landing in a roll just as it exploded in a spectacular fireball. "Targets neutralized," Xander said, standing up and dusting himself off as the flaming wreckage of the alien war machines fell around him. Captain Rain's voice crackled through the comms. "We're detecting more forces heading your way. Looks like they're not giving up." "They never do," Xander replied, his tone cool. "But neither do we." He signaled for his men to regroup. The battlefield was littered with the remains of alien technology and human ingenuity. But it was far from over. The real battle had just begun. As the human forces regrouped, Xander's eyes narrowed. He could feel the storm brewing in the air, Not just the literal one overhead, but the tension, the anticipation of the next wave. The aliens would strike harder now, realizing that brute force wasn't enough. They would adapt, change their tactics, but so would the humans. Xander wasn't just fighting for survival. He was fighting to send a message to the entire galaxy: Earth wasn't a fragile planet, and humans weren't weak. They were survivors. And when pushed to the brink, they would do whatever it took to win. The ground beneath his feet trembled, the distant rumble of thunder merging with the explosions in the distance. But he felt a strange sense of calm. This was what he was trained for. This was what he was born to do. "Captain," he said into his comm, his voice steady, "tell the fleet to prepare for extraction. Once we're done here, we're taking the fight to them." There was a brief pause before Captain Rain responded. "Understood, sir. We'll be ready." Xander sheathed his blade and turned his gaze toward the horizon, where the next wave of alien forces would soon appear. His body ached, his muscles strained from the endless battle, but his mind was sharp, focused. "Let's show them what a HellWorld really is," he muttered to himself, a dangerous smile creeping onto his face. The aliens had no idea what was coming next. They thought they had seen Earth's fury. They hadn't seen anything yet. With a single gesture, Xander led his troops into the darkness, where the real battle awaited. The storm raged above, dark clouds swirling in a chaotic dance as bolts of lightning arced across the sky. The air crackled with energy, both from the violent weather and the tension of the impending clash. Xander stood at the forefront, his eyes narrowed as he scanned the horizon. In the distance, the alien forces were regrouping, preparing their final assault. Their warships, hulking behemoths of metal and plasma, descended from the clouds, casting long shadows over the ruined city. But Xander was ready. Everyone in position, he barked into his comm as troops, hardened survivors of Earth's unforgiving environment, moved with quiet precision. They had fought through hell and back to defend their home, and now, they were ready to deliver the final blow. The ground trembled as the alien war machines lumbered closer, their massive cannons glowing with ominous energy. Xander's jaw clenched. These invaders thought they could break humanity's spirit, but they had underestimated Earth's greatest weapon, its people. The first alien ship fired, a massive blast of plasma tearing through the atmosphere. It slammed into the city's outer defenses, sending debris flying. Xander didn't flinch. He had expected this. He watched as the alien war machines advanced, their armor gleaming under the storm's light. The Varian forces were relentless, their war tactics refined over millennia of galactic conquest. But that wouldn't be enough here. "Wait for it," Xander whispered, his hand tightening around the detonator in his palm. The alien forces closed in, their soldiers marching in lockstep, their war cries echoing across the battlefield. Xander could see their commanders, perched atop their machines, sneering with arrogance. They still didn't understand. Xander took a deep breath. "Now." With a flick of his thumb, he pressed the detonator. In an instant, the ground erupted in a series of massive explosions. Mines, carefully placed by his troops, tore through the advancing forces, ripping apart war machines and sending alien soldiers flying. Chaos engulfed the battlefield as the alien lines broke, their carefully orchestrated attack thrown into disarray. The Varians scrambled to recover, but it was too late. Xander's forces surged forward, striking with ruthless efficiency. They moved like shadows, using the ruins of the city to their advantage, ambushing the invaders at every turn. The aliens were powerful, but Earth had taught its defenders to adapt, to use every tool at their disposal to survive. Xander sprinted toward the heart of the enemy formation, his pulse blade gleaming in his hand. He dodged incoming fire, his movements swift and precise. With a single strike, he slashed through an alien officer, the creature collapsing with a guttural scream. He spun, taking down another soldier with ease. The battlefield was a storm of violence, but Xander thrived in it. Overhead, one of the alien warships began to fall, its engines crippled by human sabotage. It crashed into the ground with a deafening roar, sending a shockwave through the battlefield. Xander barely registered it, his focus entirely on the fight in front of him. He cut down another alien soldier, his blade slicing through armor and flesh with deadly precision. Suddenly, a massive figure loomed in front of him. High Commander Krellick, his towering form bristling with weapons and rage, stepped forward. His mandibles clicked with fury as he stared down at Xander. "You, pathetic human," Krellick snarled, his voice dripping with contempt. "You think you've won?" Xander met his gaze, unflinching. "I know we have." Krellick roared, swinging his massive energy blade toward Xander. But Xander was faster. He dodged the strike, rolling to the side and coming up behind the alien commander. With a swift, brutal motion, Xander drove his pulse blade into Krellick's back, piercing through his armor. The High Commander gasped, his body convulsing as the blade cut through vital organs. Xander twisted the blade, watching as the life drained from the alien's eyes. Krellick's massive body crumpled to the ground, lifeless. Xander stood over him, breathing heavily, his blade still dripping with alien blood. He glanced up at the sky, where the remaining alien ships were retreating, their forces shattered. The battle was over. Humanity had won. Around him, his troops began to gather, their faces a mix of exhaustion and triumph. The alien invaders, once so confident in their superiority, had been driven from Earth, their forces decimated by the very world they had mocked. Captain Rain approached, her face smeared with dirt and blood, but her eyes were bright with victory. "It's over," she said, her voice filled with awe. "We did it." Xander nodded, but there was no joy in his expression, only a deep, quiet satisfaction. "They'll think twice before they ever come back." Rain smiled, though it was tinged with exhaustion. "Do you think they finally understand?" Xander glanced down at Krellick's lifeless body, then back at the battlefield, where the remnants of the alien invasion lay in ruins. "Oh, they understand," he said, his voice low. "They know now that Earth is no ordinary world. And its people were no ordinary species." He turned to face the storm, the wind howling through the ruins of the city. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. Other alien empires would hear of this, and they would come. But Xander wasn't afraid. Because now the galaxy knew the truth, Earth was a Tier-8 Warzone HellWorld. And humans? They were forged in its crucible, stronger than any species could ever imagine. As the storm clouds began to part, revealing the stars above, Xander sheathed his blade. He looked at his troops, his people, and gave a single, resolute nod. "Let them come." Xander stood amidst the wreckage, the storm still rumbling in the distance, but the battle had ended. Around him, the human forces had begun securing the remains of the alien invaders. The Varians had been confident in their superiority, yet here they were, scattered and defeated on Earth's unforgiving soil. Captain Rain walked up beside him, her face a mix of pride and exhaustion. "What now?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Xander's gaze remained fixed on the horizon, where the last of the alien ships had retreated into the void, fleeing from the hell they had foolishly provoked. "We rebuild," he replied, his voice calm, but carrying the weight of all they had endured. The wind swept across the ruins, carrying with it the scent of scorched metal and the earthy musk of survival. Xander took a deep breath, feeling the raw power of Earth beneath his feet. They had fought for every inch of this ground, for every breath of air, and they had won because they knew the truth of their world. It wasn't just a planet. It was a battlefield. A crucible of survival. As he looked out over the scarred landscape, Xander spoke with quiet resolve. "They'll come again. Others will hear about what happened here, and they'll be curious, maybe even desperate to prove they can succeed where the Variants failed. But they'll be wrong." Captain Rain nodded, understanding. "They'll never truly know what Earth is until they face it themselves." Xander turned toward her, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "And by then, it'll be too late." He looked up at the sky, where the stars were just beginning to shine through the retreating storm clouds. Earth was still standing, and so were its people. They had proven once again that they were not to be underestimated. "Let them come," Xander said, his voice filled with the quiet confidence of a man who knew what it meant to survive. "We're ready." The wind howled one last time, and with that, the battle was over. But the legacy of Earth, the Tier-8 Warzone HellWorld, would echo through the galaxy, a warning to all who dared to challenge its people. And in the silence that followed, Xander and his soldiers stood victorious, knowing that no matter what came next, they would always be ready. The end.